Hi everyone, and welcome to the 13th episode of the Matchbox Restoration series. In this special episode I'll be restoring the 13D Dodge wreck truck next to the 71C Ford Heavy wreck truck restoration of Time Rider. We had the idea of doing a special around a particular theme for quite a while, so we decided to go for it and pick the wreck truck theme for this first special. So make sure to check out his video of his restoration. I'll be linking to it at the end of this video. Now, the 13D Dodge wreck truck was first introduced in 1965. The early models featured some silver trim details that were omitted on later issues. This particular model came with a cracked window unit, chipped paint and a missing light on top of the cabin. The tow hook is in decent state, but I'll have to check if I can reuse it in this restoration. Let's get started. After putting the model in my vise, I gently drill out the rivets with a 4mm drill bit. It takes some fiddling around, but oops, there it goes. The window unit is cracked, so that will need to be replaced. The light beacon will need some TLC too. I then remove the wheels and axles with my Dremel tool, sanding away the small lip at the end of the axle as usual. Both axles come off quite easily and the base looks in good shape. To assemble the model back together at the end of the restoration, I need to drill out the rivet posts with my drill press. I carefully drill the holes while making sure I don't drill too deep. The small piece of tape on the drill bit helps me to check the depth of the hole I'm drilling. I use a 2mm tap to tap a thread into the rivet posts. I'll be using two M2 screws to secure the base back onto the body when assembling the model back together. Before paint stripping, I mix the colors I'll be using to repaint the model. I'm using the X8 yellow Tamiya acrylic paint as a base for the yellow color. As the color is much lighter on the cap of the truck, I mix it with the X2 white. Then I add a bit of thinner to the mix so that it's thin enough to use with the airbrush. The resulting color obviously is still too dark and needs some green to get the right shade of yellow. I'm using the X28 green for this. After a while I get a nice yellow color that might look like it's not a perfect mix, but have a look at another cap I have laying around of the same model. I actually like that color better, so I'm sticking to the result I have now. Let's mix the green color. For this color I mix the X5 and X28 green colors together. The first mix looks a bit too dark, so I add a bit more of the lighter green to it and also a bit of blue to get a cooler shade of green. The result is quite close to the original color. Time for some paint stripping. One of my subscribers suggested putting the paint stripper gel in a small jar instead of putting my paintbrush in the can while applying it. This prevents paint coming into the paint stripper can and will keep the gel that's still in the can clean. Thanks for the advice. By the look of the paint stripper gel, it has already suffered from my previous method. Looking back to my first videos, the gel was transparent when it was new. I apply the paint stripper with a brush and let it work for about 15 minutes. I then remove the paint with a soft metal brush. This time I have to repeat the paint stripping process in order to remove all paint from the model. When the paint is removed, I can start cleaning up the body and base. I use my Dremel tool and a soft metal brush for this. It does take some time, but you'll be amazed how good the casting looks after cleaning it up like this. Now it's time to apply a base coat onto the model. I'm using the light grey Tamiya surface primer. Always apply small amounts of paint at a time. I always try to avoid to spray a second coat on one spot afterwards, as it usually shows when the coat is dry. When the base coat is dry, it's time to apply some color to the model. I start off by applying a light coat of yellow on the cap of the model. This one has some hard to reach spots, so I have to make sure I get a nice and even finish. Sometimes patience is key when painting these models. You don't want to rush into things, because it will show in the end result. After the cap, it's time to give the base its green color. I first apply some paint to the harder to reach spots and then continue with the rest of the part. The green goes on nice and easy, and the result looks quite nice, even after the first layers. While the paint dries, I can spend some time on the tires that look a bit worn. With a mixture of black paint and a lot of thinner, I brush on a wet coat with a paintbrush. Sometimes you'll need a couple of runs before the tires look nice again. The difference is really noticeable. To refurbish the light beacon, I have sanded it with some fine grit emery paper and submerged it in some floor polish. The faded red color goes away after the floor polish has done its work and it will look like new again. I prepare both screws that will go into the rivet posts. It looks like I've used the wrong tool again, as the screw eats away more of the tool's material than expected. Well, sometimes you learn things the hard way. After that, I clean up the axles with some emery paper. I run them in my hand drill until they look nice and shiny again. If someone is interested in buying the art pieces I create on the emery paper while doing this, let me know. I'm up for any offers. When the axles are ready, it's time to put the wheels back on. I use my drill press to create a small lip on the end of the axles so the wheels stay on. Now that everything is back in good condition, I can start assembling the model back together. I start by putting the light beacon and the new window unit back into place. I don't need to glue the window in place as it rests on the bottom of the base. I put the base back on and secure it with 2 countersunk screws. And let's not forget the tow hook, which I secure by pressing together the 2 ends that hold it in place. I almost forgot to apply the BP logos back into place. The original ones were water transfer decals, but I received 2 labels instead. I would have preferred the decals, but I couldn't find any online, so until then, these will do. And that's it. The Dodge Rack Truck started off with a worn tow hook, chipped paint and a cracked window unit. After replacing the tow hook, repainting the body and adding the new window unit, it looks like it's good to go again. I'm happy with how the colors turned out on this restoration. I might take that second model I used for color mixing and create a nice custom rack truck. Now, before you skip to another video, please check out the 71C Ford Heavy Rack Truck of Time Rider. I've already seen it and it looks amazing. We are planning on doing some more themed specials like this one in the future, so stay tuned for that. And as always, thank you for watching.